The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning. Humanity's deep space monitoring stations detected an approaching vessel, its energy signature unlike anything ever recorded. Dr. Elena Santos, head of Earth's First Contact Division, stood before the United Earth Council, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display of the alien ship. "They call themselves the Viridian Collective," she announced, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Their initial communications indicate peaceful intentions. They claim to represent a federation of spacefaring species. The arrival of the Viridians marked humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization. Their ships were works of art, crystalline structures that seemed to defy physics, glowing with an inner light that captivated Earth's scientists. Their ambassadors, tall humanoids with iridescent skin and profound eyes, spoke of cultural exchange and technological cooperation. For 6 months, the relationship flourished. The Viridians shared glimpses of their technology, enough to advance Earth's understanding of quantum mechanics by decades. In return, humanity offered its unique perspectives on art, music, and philosophy. The aliens seemed particularly fascinated by human creativity, by our ability to imagine and innovate in ways their highly structured society never considered. The Europa Research Station, humanity's premier deep space facility, became the center of this exchange. Housing 10,000 of Earth's brightest minds, it represented the pinnacle of human scientific achievement. Dr. Santos spent countless hours there, working alongside the Viridian scientists, believing she was helping to forge a bridge between their civilizations. She couldn't have known she was helping to build humanity's pyre. The attack came without warning. The Viridian ships, once symbols of peace and progress, turned their weapons on the Europa Station. Their crystalline hulls darkened to an obsidian black, revealing their true nature, not vessels of peace, but weapons of war. "This is Ambassador Korath of the Viridian Collective. The transmission cut through all frequencies. Your species has been deemed too dangerous to allow unrestricted development. Your potential for violence, combined with your rapid technological advancement, presents an unacceptable risk to galactic stability." The Europa Station's defenses, designed for protection against solar radiation and meteorites, stood no chance against the advanced Viridian weapons. In moments, the station was reduced to atoms, taking with it 10,000 lives and humanity's naive trust in the cosmos. But in their certainty of victory, the Viridians had made a crucial mistake. They assumed humanity's visible technology represented the peak of our capabilities. They hadn't bothered to look deeper, to understand why a species capable of reaching their moons and nearby planets seemed content with such limited expansion. They never questioned why humanity, with its proven ability to adapt and overcome, had maintained such a modest presence in space. As the debris of the Europa Station scattered across the void, emergency protocols activated in hidden facilities across Earth and its remaining colonies, in underground bases and orbital platforms invisible to conventional sensors, systems long dormant hummed to life. Dr. Santos, watching the destruction from Earth, felt tears freeze on her cheeks in the cold air of the emergency command center. But beneath her grief, a steely resolve took hold. She had spent months studying the Viridians, learning their ways, understanding their technology. What they saw as humanity's weakness, our capacity for violence tempered by choice, was about to become our greatest strength. "They think they know humanity," she whispered, her words carrying to every corner of the silent command center. "They're about to learn how wrong they are." In orbital shipyards hidden in dimensional pockets, automated systems began construction sequences that had been refined and perfected for centuries. In secure facilities beneath Earth's oceans and deep within Mars' red deserts, quantum computers processed combat scenarios at speeds that would make the Viridians' most advanced systems seem primitive. Humanity had never been defenseless. We had simply chosen peace while preparing for war. The Viridian Collective had just awakened a sleeping giant, and as the first alerts reached other human colonies, As hidden arsenals were unveiled and emergency protocols initiated, one thing became clear. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity's apparent restraint had never been about weakness. It had been about wisdom. In the 3 days following the destruction of Europa Station, Earth remained silent. The Viridian Collective interpreted this silence as shock, perhaps even submission. They couldn't have been more wrong. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility known only to a handful of individuals, Admiral James Chen stood before a wall of quantum displays. Each screen showed a different aspect of humanity's awakening war machine. In one corner, manufacturing metrics scrolled past at dizzying speeds as automated factories shifted into full production. In another, fleet deployment scenarios played out in real-time simulations. Status report, Chen commanded, his voice carrying the weight of generations of preparation. Commander Sarah Rodriguez stepped forward, her dark uniform bearing no insignia. The true military of Earth had never needed such displays. Ghost Fleet activation at 97%, Admiral. The dimensional ports are opening on schedule. The Ghost Fleet, humanity's best-kept secret. While the world's governments publicly maintained modest defense forces, the true might of human military power had been carefully hidden in pocket dimensions, developed and refined over centuries. The Lazarus Protocol, Chen asked, referring to the emergency production systems that had been lying dormant in asteroid bases throughout the solar system. Operating at full capacity. Production efficiency exceeding original estimates by 12%. The new quantum-enhanced manufacturing processes are proving more effective than projected. On the main display, numbers continue to climb as humanity's true industrial might revealed itself. Ships emerged from dimensional spaces where time flowed differently, where centuries of preparation had been compressed into moments of normal spacetime. Each vessel represented the pinnacle of human engineering, not the modest ships the Viridians had seen, but warships incorporating technologies humanity had kept hidden. In orbit around Jupiter, massive structures previously invisible to conventional sensors began to phase into normal space. These were the Forge Worlds, entire automated manufacturing facilities that had been operating in secret for generations, producing and perfecting weapons humanity had hoped never to use. Sir, Rodriguez's voice carried a note of pride. The Prometheus arrays are online. The Prometheus arrays were perhaps humanity's most significant achievement, a network of quantum-entangled defensive systems that could coordinate military operations across vast distances without any detectable signals. The Viridians' understanding of human technology was based on what we had allowed them to see. They had no concept of how far we had truly advanced. In hidden bases across Earth's colonies, soldiers who had trained in secret their entire lives emerged from stasis. These weren't the peaceful settlers the galaxy knew. They were warriors who had prepared for this moment through countless simulations and exercises, all conducted away from prying eyes. Admiral Chen allowed himself a moment to reflect on the irony of the situation. The Viridians had attacked because they feared humanity's potential for violence, yet their actions had guaranteed the very response they had hoped to prevent. They thought they were being clever, Chen mused, watching as another wave of ships materialized from their dimensional hangars. Studying us for 6 months, learning our weaknesses, they never realized they were seeing exactly what we wanted them to see. The ships now assembling in secret locations throughout the solar system were unlike anything the Viridians had encountered. Their hulls incorporated metamaterials that could adapt to any weapon frequency. Their defensive systems were based on principles of quantum mechanics that humanity had discovered but kept hidden. Their weapons were designed not just to destroy, but to operate in ways that would be completely unpredictable to conventional defense systems. Sir, Rodriguez reported, the Nexus I is projecting a 98% success rate for the counteroffensive. The Nexus I was another secret humanity had kept, a quantum computing network that had spent centuries analyzing every possible scenario of first contact and potential conflict. It had learned from every war in human history, developed strategies that accounted for technologies that didn't even exist yet, and created battle plans that adapted in real time. How long until we reach full deployment strength? Chen asked, though he already knew the answer. Every aspect of this response had been planned and refined over generations. 6 hours, sir. All ships will be in position, crews ready, and weapons systems fully charged. Chen nodded, his expression grim but determined. Send word to all commands. Operation Phoenix is now active. We move on my mark. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden strength continued to emerge. Ships appeared from dimensional pockets, weapon systems activated, and defense grids powered up. The Viridians had sought to prevent what they saw as a potential threat. Instead, they had guaranteed its emergence. In her office in the Emergency Command Center, Dr. Santos received the notification of military readiness. Looking at the casualty lists from Europa Station one final time, she closed the file and straightened her shoulders. The time for diplomacy had passed. Now, the galaxy would learn why humanity had chosen to hide its strength, and why that choice had been a mercy. The Viridian fleet hung in high orbit around Mars, their crystalline ships reflecting the red planet's light. They had positioned themselves to blockade Earth's most developed colony, confident in their technological superiority. Their sensors showed nothing unusual, just the expected civilian traffic and defensive satellites they had already analyzed and dismissed as primitive. That changed in an instant. Space itself seemed to ripple as humanity's ghost fleet emerged from their dimensional pockets. The Viridian sensors registered the impossible. 500,000 warships materializing simultaneously, their formations perfect, their coordinates precise to the quantum level. These weren't the utilitarian vessels the aliens had documented in their surveillance. These ships were predators, their hulls dark and angular, bristling with weapons that defied conventional physics. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Nemesis, watching through quantum-linked displays as his fleet took position. All ships, execute Battle Plan Omega. Weapons free, but remember, we show them precisely who we are. The human fleet moved with impossible coordination, their actions guided by the Nexus Eye's quantum processors. Each ship knew its role in a dance choreographed through centuries of preparation. The Viridians barely had time to raise their shields before the first attack struck. Quantum-phased energy beams sliced through their supposedly impenetrable defenses. Dimensional torpedoes bypassed their shields entirely, detonating in spaces that shouldn't exist. The proud Viridian fleet, which had approached Earth with such confidence, found themselves facing weapons they couldn't understand, much less defend against. "Sir," Commander Rodriguez reported, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding on the tactical displays, "the enemy is attempting to regroup. Their ships are adopting the defensive formation." Chen nodded, watching as the Viridian ships clustered together, their crystalline hulls resonating in what his analysts identified as a collective shield mechanism, exactly as the simulations predicted. Execute Phase 2. Throughout the human fleet, quantum entanglement drives activated. Ships blinked in and out of existence, appearing inside the Viridian formation, their weapons already firing. The aliens' collective shield, designed to repel attacks from outside, was useless against enemies that could materialize within their defensive perimeter. The battle in Mars orbit lasted exactly 7 minutes and 13 seconds. When it ended, the proud Viridian blockade fleet had been reduced to scattered atoms. Human casualties, 0. But this was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, other human fleets emerged from hiding. The Viridian Collective had colonies and outposts scattered across 12 star systems. They had considered this a sign of their superiority over Earth's single-system civilization. Now, they watched in horror as human warships appeared in every one of those systems simultaneously. In the Arcturus sector, where the Viridians had established their largest military base outside their home system, Admiral Sarah Chen, James Chen's sister, led the assault personally. Her fleet didn't just attack. It systematically dismantled the Viridian defenses, using their own technology against them. Interesting, She noted, watching as her ship's quantum sensors analyzed and adapted to each Viridian countermeasure. They genuinely believed their technological advancement was linear. They never considered that we might have discovered entirely different paths of development. The human ships demonstrated capabilities that the Viridians had considered theoretically impossible. They generated localized time distortions, trapping enemy vessels in temporal bubbles where they could be disabled without destruction. They deployed swarms of quantum-entangled drones that could predict and counter enemy movements before they occurred. Most devastating of all, they unveiled the true purpose of the Prometheus arrays. What the Viridians had dismissed as primitive communication satellites around Earth were actually nodes in a vast quantum network. This network could analyze any technology it encountered and develop countermeasures in real time. In the Viridian home system, their high command watched with growing horror as reports flooded in from across their territory. Human ships were everywhere, their attacks precise and devastating. But there was something else, something that terrified them more than the military defeat. The humans were being selected. Military targets were destroyed or disabled. Weapons platforms were atomized. Command and control centers were systematically neutralized. But civilian targets were left completely untouched. Human forces would actually alter their attack vectors to avoid collateral damage, demonstrating a level of precision and control that seemed impossible in the chaos of space warfare. This wasn't just a victory through superior firepower. This was a message, written in the language of war but speaking volumes about humanity's true nature. We had the power to destroy them utterly, but we were choosing not to. As the battle entered its final phases, Admiral James Chen sent a transmission to the Viridian High Command. The message was simple, delivered in their own language with perfect pronunciation. You feared what we might become. Now you understand what we have always been. The choice for peace was never about weakness. It was about responsibility. Let us show you the difference between those who seek power and those who understand its price. The counterstrike had achieved its objective. Now came the harder part, teaching the galaxy why humanity's restraint had been a gift, not a weakness. In the aftermath of humanity's devastating counterstrike, the Viridian High Command gathered in their underground bunker on their homeworld, Viridia Prime. Their iridescent skin had dulled to a pale sheen, a sign of extreme distress in their species. Before them, holographic displays showed the extent of their defeat. Military installations reduced to debris, fleets scattered or destroyed, defensive systems bypassed as if they were primitive shields. But what truly shook them was the data streaming in from their intact civilian centers. Reports of human ships providing emergency aid to populations caught in the crossfire. Footage of precision strikes that had removed military threats while leaving surrounding civilian infrastructure untouched. Their analysts were still trying to comprehend the level of technological sophistication required for such surgical precision in space warfare. First speaker Lyra, the highest-ranking surviving member of the Viridian leadership, studied a replay of a particularly telling encounter. A human vessel, confronted with a Viridian warship using a civilian transport as cover, had somehow phased through the civilian ship like a ghost, destroyed the warship with a weapon that ignored shields, and then stopped to provide emergency supplies to the civilians. We fundamentally misunderstood them, she said, her voice carrying the weight of revelation. We saw their potential for violence and assumed it was their defining characteristic. We never considered that their history of conflict might have taught them the value of peace. Across the galaxy, other spacefaring races were reaching similar conclusions. The Arcturus Observatory, operated by the reclusive Zenith consciousness, had recorded the entire human counteroffensive. The Zenith, known for their detached analysis of galactic affairs, found themselves revising centuries of assumptions about primitive species. Their technological development did not follow expected patterns, the Zenith report noted. While most species advance along predictable lines, weapons, then shields, then energy manipulation, humans appear to have developed entirely new branches of physics in secret. Their understanding of dimensional mechanics and quantum engineering suggests they have been preparing for interstellar conflict since before they left their atmosphere. But it was Dr. Elena Santos who provided the most crucial insight into humanity's true nature. Standing before an emergency session of the Galactic Council, hastily convened after the display of Earth's power, she spoke not as a victim of betrayal, but as a teacher. "You mistake our readiness for war as bloodthirst," she explained, her voice carrying to representatives of 100 species. "You see our hidden fleets as proof of duplicity. What you fail to understand is that every weapon we created, every defense we designed, was born from a single hope that they would never be needed." She gestured to the display behind her, showing centuries of human history. We fought our wars, yes. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. But from each conflict, we learned. We developed our weapons not because we wanted to use them, but because we understood that true peace comes from strength tempered by wisdom. The quantum-linked feed carried her words to every corner of known space. On thousands of worlds, beings of all forms watched and listened as humanity revealed its philosophy of power and restraint. We hid our strength not out of deception, but out of hope for peaceful coexistence. We maintained our limited presence in space not because we had to, but because we chose to give younger races room to grow. We developed our military might not to conquer, but to ensure that if war came, we could end it decisively while preserving innocent life. In the Viridian bunker, first speaker Lyra watched the broadcast with growing understanding. The humans hadn't just defeated them militarily. They had demonstrated a level of ethical warfare that her people had never even considered possible. A new transmission arrived, this one from Admiral James Chen. The message was brief but profound. "We are prepared to accept your surrender. But more importantly, we are prepared to teach you why we fight the way we do." The choice between peace and war was never about capability. It was about wisdom. Throughout the galaxy, ancient races and young civilizations alike began to understand. Humanity's true strength lay not in its hidden fleets or advanced technology, but in its ability to possess overwhelming power and choose not to use it, until forced to do so. The Viridian Collective had sought to prevent what they saw as a potential threat to galactic stability. Instead, they had revealed humanity's most profound truth. True power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to. 1 year after the Viridian conflict, the rebuilt Europa station hosted an unprecedented gathering. Representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations converged in its grand assembly hall, their diverse forms a testament to the galaxy's rich tapestry of life. This time, however, they came not as conquerors or observers, but as students. At the center of the assembly, Dr. Elena Santos and Admiral James Chen stood before a holographic display showing the reconstruction efforts across former conflict zones. The Viridian worlds, rather than lying in ruins as many had expected, were thriving under a new paradigm of cooperation. The aftermath of conflict, Santos began, addressing the assembled delegates, is where true strength is tested. Any species can destroy. Few can build. Fewer still can teach. The reconstruction of the Viridian systems had become a showcase of humanity's true capabilities. The same dimensional technology that had hidden humanity's warships now created stable microenvironments for displaced populations. Quantum engineering that had powered weapons now sustained new colonies and healed damaged ecosystems. First speaker Lyra, now serving as the Viridian representative to the new Galactic Council, rose to address her former enemies. "We attacked humanity because we feared their potential for violence. In doing so, we learned that their capacity for forgiveness far exceeds their capacity for war. The evidence was visible in every corner of known space. Human ships, once hidden in dimensional pockets, now openly patrolled trade routes, protecting merchant vessels of all species from pirates and rogue elements. The Prometheus arrays, revealed as far more than weapons platforms, formed the backbone of a new galactic communication network that allowed instant transmission of knowledge and culture across vast distances. Admiral Chen activated a new holographic display, showing the location of humanity's latest initiative, the Galactic Defense Academy. "We created our weapons in secret," he explained, "not to deceive, but to preserve peace. Now we offer to share not just our technology, but the philosophy behind it." The Academy would become the heart of a new approach to galactic security. Here, species that had once eyed each other with suspicion learned the human doctrine of measured response and ethical warfare. More importantly, they learned why humanity had chosen to develop its strength in secret. "Power without wisdom is inherently dangerous," Santos continued. "But wisdom without power is equally problematic. The key is not in having the strength to destroy your enemies, but in having the strength to turn them into allies." The changes rippled through galactic society. Species that had previously rushed to display their military might began to understand the strategic advantage of hidden strength. Those that had relied on aggressive expansion started to appreciate the benefits of measured growth and mutual cooperation. In orbit around Earth, the same shipyards that had produced humanity's hidden fleet now served as centers of innovation and collaboration. Alien engineers worked alongside human scientists, combining their unique perspectives to create technologies that served life rather than threatened it. The Zenith Consciousness, in their final report on the transformation of galactic society, noted, "The humans have achieved what no other species considered possible. They have turned the capacity for overwhelming force into a foundation for lasting peace." As the assembly drew to a close, Dr. Santos approached the central podium one final time. The chamber fell silent as she activated a final holographic display, showing the original Europa station's destruction alongside images of its resurrection. "We build our strength not because we desire war, but because we understand its cost. We maintain our power not to dominate, but to protect. And we share our knowledge not to claim superiority, but to ensure that the next time a species faces the choice between peace and war, they have the wisdom to choose correctly." In the decades that followed, the galaxy entered an unprecedented era of stability and growth. The Viridian conflict became a cornerstone of diplomatic education, taught not as a story of victory and defeat, but as a lesson in the true nature of strength and wisdom. Humanity, once feared for its potential for violence, became known instead for its capacity to transform enemies into allies, to turn tools of war into instruments of peace, and to demonstrate that the greatest power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to build. And in hidden facilities throughout human space, the shipyards and weapons platforms remained ready, not because humanity expected war, but because they understood that true peace must be guarded by those with both the strength to maintain it and the wisdom to use that strength justly. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been its hidden fleets or advanced technology. It had been its understanding that true power lies not in what you can do to others, but in what you choose not to do, and having the strength to make that choice meaningful.